So if you're not going to talk about details, I'm talking about details.
Hello everyone and welcome to this sieging, keep and house sieging mechanics. I summarized a few statements from Henrik where he was talking about the sieging mechanic and the house sieging mechanic and the sieging mechanic in general, how it will be with keep sieges and stuff. So let's hear what Henrik has to say.
Limitation. So as you may have noticed, there's 2 supply buildings nearby every keep in the world, and those works as a key for this. So that means if you capture these 2, you will reduce the defense on a keep enough to actually make effective damage. So if you don't capture these 2 supply lines, the defense will be so high that it's gonna be very difficult and time consuming to do decent damage against a keep. So that is kind of our hybrid system to promote a more interesting.
I just wanted to include this here because I think it's interesting. I often cut Henrik's stuff, and I cut it really hard that you don't have to waste any time. And I cut out the Ms, the Äs, the when he's not talking anything or anything related to the topic or any short pause. But 6 cuts for 1 second is a little bit hardcore. I consider this the new record.
Siege window, or how you would call it.
And sometimes you have longer ones where nearly 8 to 10 seconds nothing happens. But you know what? We will cut it. So what I normally leave out, you will hear it now.
So what's the plan on this destroying player houses? The same rules goes for all assets in the game. It's just that to start sieging a house, you don't have to capture anything. You will do a decent normal amount of sieging damage. So that means to effectively destroy a house, you would deploy a siege weapon. You wouldn't just be standing there with clubs. That will be too time consuming. So siege machines is the way to destroy assets. And like we mentioned before, we want to make sure that we want to promote player cities, building things, and enjoy that part of it. So we want to make sure that there should be enough incentive or provocation for you to actually invest in destroying a house, not just because you find it fun shooting a catapult against a house to destroy it. It would require more reason. Like, this is your enemies. You really want to destroy them or push them back, or they have claimed ground that you want to grab. That's when it could be worth investing in destroying it. So if you're just a solo or small group player that aren't part of a conflict and are away from important land that someone may fight for, and you shouldn't have to worry too much about being sieged, because it wouldn't make sense to invest in something that you wouldn't benefit from. TC mechanics and siege mechanics on the roadmap. As I said, we haven't put it down in detail on exactly where it is. It may come in 2 steps that you're looking forward to: TC content, assets and features, and sieging. So that is why we're also prioritizing that in our order of the roadmap. We're starting with a good pack of TC functions that is the most wanted and valuable, and then there's a lot more coming to that list in upcoming patches. So it's not just going to be one patch TC done. It's going to be a progress over a long period of time, and also because you may want new features or functions or assets that fits and makes sense, and we may want to add that as well.
There were some pros and cons with those systems, and obviously we tried to learn from those systems that didn't work as planned or didn't turn out fun or exciting or good enough. So the main differences, I would say, is that we discussed this also in the first game. There was a huge discussion between, within the community. Should there be a magical shield that limits damage and have a opening window when your siege is about to start, when you can damage something? Also to prevent ninja sieges overnight when you wake up and everything is gone. A lot of discussions regarding those, and promoting building things versus sieging things, cost, risks, and just to make sure that when we invest a lot of resources and time in these systems, we want players to be able to have fun with them, rely on them, and obviously that comes always with a risk, but we want to make sure that there's a balance when it comes to, again, this is a persistent MMORPG game where you can build your own city or house and live in the world with quite the effort to make that happen. So of course we have to be careful not confuse this system with a rust system. You just jump in 5 minutes, you build your little hut, and therefore also you can, you know, wreck this hut within minutes, and that's it. Nothing really persistent. So obviously that comes into an important balance play where we need to be sure that people can invest time in building things, and that can be a great thing for the game. While at the same time there needs to be tools to go into conflict and have a, you know, interesting, exciting, challenging siege moment where both sides obviously have to do their utmost best to protect or destroy. So that balance is very sensitive. So that is one big point, obviously. And we talked a little bit about how the actual siege component is meant to be in terms of the sieging window that we talked about, and we found a very exciting solution, or our version of doing that. And that's also where the supply lines comes into play. You have seen the supply assets near every keep location in the game currently. Those also works as key components to kind of start a siege. If you want to go the full way to try to destroy someone's keep, those supply lines are the initial keys to start your siege. So if you manage to destroy and take over those two supply lines, that's also when you can when you have weakened over time the actual keep location, in which obviously allows you to make an effective siege with sieging machineries. So that kind of gave us a estimated timeline for when enemies may be at the gate, you know, hitting at the actual keep. So that gave us some interesting tools to give players an exciting way to do small skirmishes, wars, but can also then obviously go the full way going for a keep. And that should add more interesting component as well for both sides involved. Can you tell us anything about how removal demolition of houses will work with TC? So there's a few components that we're going to add for the house owners when it comes to all constructions. Two of them quite important function. One is obviously where you can trade your house, so you can sell your house or trade it with anyone else. The other one is where you can choose to demolish your house, you know, remove it in an effective way if you decide to move or want to build something else. We're also looking to a possible construction state. If you want to change the house type, you should be in a more effective way in putting in a construction state again and rework it into another shape. Obviously this depends a little bit on the space of the location. If it's a very small location, then obviously there will be a limitation when it comes to upgrading to a huger building. But yeah, demolish your own house and trade function will be given to the house owners, stronghold owners as well.
Yeah, it don't look like much, but actually it was cutting hell. But anyway, just a little look behind the scenes. Yeah, it's actually more work than you think. Who would have guessed that? But anyway, to the sieging mechanic, I really trust Starbolt here that they really know what they are doing, and that they really balance this and test this before they will implement it. Because many guilds have keeps now, and many people build their houses, their homes and stuff, and on some rare locations and stuff. And yeah, if it would be too easy to siege, then this would be really bad. So anyway, I'm excited for this. So please leave your opinion in the comments, would be awesome. And special thanks to all the supporters: Carmel, Professor Oslav Gaming, Thibni, Lordless Guild, Frederick the Spicy G, Rhonus, Paarthurnax, Vinya, Cologne, Bulldog, you. And all the others, of course. And always siege hard. I mean party hard. And see you all next time. Goodbye.